This is part 44 of the 924S turbo build, link to get caught up. Last time we finished with me feeling quite smug because the exhaust was actually going pretty well. There's a slight issue in terms of where it's connecting underneath the car, which is something that I'm going to have a look at now, or I've started having a look at, and I'm just going to get you caught up. I've also just been doing some odd jobs around the car, just carrying on with some of the interior trim stuff, which you really don't need to or want to see, and then just practicing and trying a few different ideas out for some stuff, which I'll show you if it works. All right, I might even show you if I end up ruling it out. So on the exhaust front, so it's where the back section joins, where it's welded on and it's been shortened. Essentially what's happened is it kicked it up and it's messing with everything coming forward. Let's have a look and see if we can get an image in here of where everything has kind of gone a bit lopsided. For the front is the exhaust hanger. And I've always had a slight issue getting the exhaust hung properly on this one with the dank stainless steel bit since it's come in. And I've just found out why, is that I don't know if it's how well it's coming out there, that's completely wonky compared to the other side, and the same on the bottom. The holes aren't quite the same distance. So it's always been hanging slightly lopsided. The idea was that I was just going to reuse this. The problem that I've got is where the you've got the exhaust hanger, which I've discovered sits over the torque tube, so it can move back and forth, which is great. The problem that I've got is where I've moved the centre section of the exhaust back, where I need to move this back to is actually going to clash with the stuff that goes around for the gearbox. So obviously I can't take it back further than that. So what I'm going to have to do is get this onto the cat, and what I might actually do is just create a second hanger or something like that off the exhaust, which will reach forward. And now I'm saying it, I think that might be the thing to do. The reason that I think that might be the way to go is that's obviously the bigger, heavier section, and there's nothing supporting at the moment. That might not be such a bad idea. Bear with me. Okay, so this filthy mess here is the exhaust hanger. Actually, just give me 10 minutes. Here we have the exhaust hanger and its component parts. So obviously the bushing, and that bit goes onto the torque tube, and then this section will go down like that with the exhaust bit running through the middle. The problem that I've got at the moment where the setup is, with this as far back as it will go and turned around pointing the direction of the thingy, so like so, the exhaust is still probably over there, the section that I want it, and that's not very good. But I've just had a thought of what if I can move this back by essentially making an adapter that'll bolt through there and then essentially run along the edge of the torque tube and then mount here. First off, I need to make a couple of these sections which go on the bottom. I've got some steel out. I don't think I'm going to be able to get this bent over the way that I need it to, because of although it's not a massive bend, it is slightly curved there. So I think I'm going to make it in 3 sections, make the sides and then make that. So first of all, I'm going to put some extra in anyway. What I'm going to do is just put some tape across there, and then that's slightly longer, but that will give me the length marker that I need for the metal that I need to cut out to make this strip. And for the profile, right, these bits are roughly bent into shape, or pretty much into shape, so that they're the same profile pretty much as that. And I've got these ruggedly cut out. The reason I've not tidied these up is, I think the way that I'm going to do it is get these positioned to roughly where they want to be, or to where they want to be, and just get them welded in around the inside, so like that, weld them along, and then the same on the other side, and then once that's done, then I'll just get everything sort of smoothed away, and that way that I can, actually I might even put some weld along the bottom, and then just get everything nice and neat and tidy. So it's been a while, but it's time for some MIG action, so I'm just going to get that set up and we'll be back, well, any second. So welding's now done. It's quite bulky, but actually it's a lot better than my earlier efforts at welding, although it looks nothing like that at the moment. So the next stage is to get this in the vise and start grinding it back. What I have done is just quickly cut down, because I don't think you need to see me do any more cutting, cut down some box section into half, and then I've just trimmed. This is what ultimately will go front to back. This side is trimmed down lower because that's going to be up against the torque tube, so it'd be like that. Whereas the other way around, it's not going to sit right on the bracket. What I need to do first of all though, before I can start doing any of that, is get the exhaust hanger back on, so I can get everything hooked up and just work out exactly what the distances are and where I need to set everything up. So this needs to go back onto the exhaust, so back on the TIG. But what I need to work out, apologies, I need to work out the position that this is going to go on the exhaust, and I'll show you my method. It doesn't need to be exact, that's what I want to point out, because this is cockamamie idea even by my standards. So I'll show you how I'm going to get this roughly right. So this is the bottom. You've got the two bolts at the back which go onto the flange. I've put a bolt through the bottom one, which is essentially just being held on by the vise, and obviously this will set everything so that it will self-center. Well, that turned out to be far harder than it needed to be and took a lot longer than it should have done. I've put a few extra tacks around than were there before, just because it's, I don't know why, but it's just been a horrible job. And I've just, for what it's worth, welded that support back in as well. So now that that is done, I'm going to go and pop this underneath and just have a look at the sizing. Okay, so I've had a look under the car, got the exhaust kind of positioned where I want it, and worked out that if this sits kind of flush on that side, then that should just about clear the torque tube, and just having enough of that rolled edge to stop it from bending or flexing the wrong way. So just slightly more familiarity, just whack holes through these and then drill them out. Okay, so that is loosely assembled, ready to go under the car. The next points that are going to come are going to be hopefully sort of bearish, and they're going to be the ones where the original brace is going to bolt through, and then at the end we're just going to have the secondary brace. What I'm doing here, or what I've done, is tightened up the nuts and bolts so that they stay roughly put. I've then measured the distances to make sure that they're the same at either end, meaning that they are square. And where I've positioned the section here, just got the profile right. Right, so one final thing I need to do, I think, is just trim this down. So what you can see there, actually, which I'm quite pleased about, the welds. So showing some decent face thing, penetration there, so it's not bad. Okay, so I am going to get this cobbled back together and under the car, just get it all fitted because there's quite a bit of scrambling around under there. Okay, so underneath the car now, and need to be quick because the battery's running out. Here's the bracket that I created this morning. That's the original U-band clamp thing. It won't move any further because the gearbox stuff starts here on the other side of this torque tube. And essentially this is the exhaust hanger and the exhaust here. And if I pull down on that, it doesn't go anywhere. Essentially that, although that's pulling down through that point, that is then being pushed up, which it won't do. So it's all working very nicely. So I am pleased. Okay, so next up is the V-band connector for the CAT, which is currently on the car. So the exhaust underneath is currently nicely leveled out. I've lowered the back down slightly and got that straight. So that's good. Oh, that's looking good. And essentially the next bit is the CAT going on to the V-band. So what I need to do is get these welded together, have a look underneath the car, and then work out how long this needs to be versus the next bit, which kind of goes around the corner over towards where the downpipe is. So I just need to get these squared away on the whizzy wheel thing and then get them welded up with the back on the TIG. Okay, right, that's the first welds of the day done. Oh crumbs, this whole thing's feeling quite hot. That didn't go brilliantly, or it didn't start off brilliantly anyway. Basically what happened is I was putting in one of the tacks, I'd set the welder to about 50 amps and it just burned straight through the side. So then I did what I usually do and got scared and turned it all the way back down again. But that, I could see, just basically wasn't putting any heat in at all. And yeah, so eventually I got to the stage where it was kind of welding okay. There's some decent bits punctuated by some not so decent bits, mostly because I remembered I needed to do it in stages. So when I go round, like weld a section, skip a section, weld a section, and then just for heat management. but that seems to have come out okay, if not as good as the ones that I did the other day. The other thing which I'm getting a lot better at is as soon as there's any slight nonsense with the torch or with the tungsten, that comes out, goes on the grinding wheel, and then back in, and then I carry on. So this is just going to be allowed to cool for a second. I'm probably going to go and make a cup of tea while it does so, and once that's done I can get it clamped on. Underneath the car you can see where this kind of fits, because it goes inside. The way that I'm going to go about this one is just to cut it around, so that's the line I want it to fit to. So I'm going to cut it around slightly higher and then just essentially sleeve it inside a little bit. In fact, let's do it a bit more than I had planned. This is slightly curved actually, this pipe, which could be a pain, but it might be a help also. The other advantage here with this, because it is curved, it's not going to have to be exactly flat for once, which is also a blessing. Okay, right, I'll tell you what, if you take my word for it, then I'm going to do some cutting and then a little bit of sanding. I won't make you watch it, and I'll be back in a sec with this all nice and cut and mess everywhere. Oh man, it's going to go in my tea. Okay, annoyingly this is probably as cleanly as I've managed to cut anything in weeks, and it could have been anything. So I'm going to give this a try to get this in position inside here. Essentially I'm just going to use obviously just sleeve this in. I've got this tape which was recommended by Justin on the fabrication series when it comes to welding, if he says I'll pretty much do it. So I'm just going to use that to try and hold this in place long enough for me to get some tacks in there. Yeah, so that kind of worked. It occurred to me that once I got the first tack in, that would hold it to the opposite side and so on and so forth. And my world of mixed welding continues. It's not as good as it was the other day, but oh my god, it's so much better than I was doing, even with MIG welding. If you go back and look at, if you haven't already seen it, something like I think welding the sump almost had a breakdown at one point. Whereas this, even when it's not going quite right, it is working better. And I think actually part of that, in addition to all of the stuff that I mentioned last time, I think this has got a lot to do with it actually. So this is my newish Lincoln helmet, and it's got a nice big viewing area. It's got this, I can't remember what the technology is called now, but it's something like clear something. I mean, it's got, you can kind of see in there, it's got a massive screen, and this really does allow me to see a lot more of what's going on and where the puddle is, and that's been a big bonus. So if you are looking at getting into welding, MIG or TIG, I would say once you know that you're going to be sticking with it, is just try and get the best helmet you can. So anyway, yeah, that's where we are. So that's going to now onto the back, and this is for the front. On the front we are going to have this, which is going to solve hopefully most of my problems. So the in the car, essentially it needs to go along from the centre section round, and then the downpipe's about there-ish I think at the moment, so that will click on. The nice thing with this is it will allow me to, obviously, hopefully that's not making too much noise, will allow me to rotate it up or down to get that into position. But that is probably a job for tomorrow. I keep getting to this time of day, which is about 6 PM, and thinking, right, yes, I want to crack on. But in fairness, I would be making too much noise, I think. This time of night, I'm not sure how many people can hear me, and I've got to go and roast a chicken as well, so there you go. Right, I will be back in the morning in a few seconds. So I've just tested this section against the end of the cat, and this bit is coming down at a bit of an odd angle, sort of there-ish. I think what I hope I'm going to be better off doing is I'm going to take this bottom section off just around here and put a straight piece on, and that will hopefully give me a point where it roughly intercepts this, and then with a bit of luck I've got some right angle section which should hopefully finish the job off, although this is where it's now getting really tricky. So I just did an explanation of what I did and realised it probably didn't make much sense, so let's have another go at this. I hung the downpipe, and basically the section where it's coming across, I marked the height off using an axle stand with a little block on it and determined that that was where I needed to make the cut. I actually think that this is slightly higher, slightly lower than where the cut needs to be, but if needs be I'll spend the time just patiently hopefully working this back to where it needs to go. And the idea is that that is the height that I've worked everything out to. I hope that's correct, so with a bit of luck that'll go down, and I think it's kind of that way-ish onto the section. So I now need to work out what the distance is going to be from the section that's coming forwards and where I need to cut that, and then hopefully this will go together without too much fiddling around for everything else. Okay, so close. This is, that will be just lined up against the mark there. It's twisted around slightly without pipe pushing against it. There is a very small gap there, so essentially I need to get this welded on and then look at a section just to straighten that out. I've been with the exhaust pipe bits back and forth between the underside of the car and the bench grinder or sander. I've got this marked. I can't really get under the car to just tack it into place, so I've marked everything up. What I'm going to do is put a few tacks in. I've kind of had to do this as best I can. So I'm going to get those in and then have a look underneath the car and just make sure everything's where I think it should be. I'm so pleased. Right, I need to just check and make sure that this still fits. When I tacked it up and then tried it, everything seemed to be in place. I'm not going to lie, there's a little section here. When I've straightened this and taken the other piece out, that's now coming a bit close to the bodywork, so I might need to just knock that back a little bit. It's just an extrusion. So yeah, but I'm so happy. Right, the final thing that I'm going to have to do at some point, I'm going to need to start making a snagging list now. When everything else is in place, I'm just going to need to knock a little brace on here to go onto the side of the engine. But yeah, let's just make sure this fits and be very happy, all of us. I'm very, very pleased. I know I say that at the end of most episodes, especially lately, but yeah, there were times with that where I was uncertain about going in and doing the welding, and then that seemed to come together. Then that last section where I was trimming to get the two final pieces to meet, that was just a lot of patience. That was put the pipe, the section that goes to the V band, put that up, mark it up, come it, sand it, go back, do it, sand it, and then just back and forth, which I wasn't going to film because it'd just be a nightmare and not particularly interesting. So yes, we've got an exhaust system. There's still some bits to come to modify the back section slightly and the rear exhaust hanger. I just need to make something so that drops down, but everything's level under the car. So yeah, no, that's great. I literally, getting towards the end, I was starting to sweat a little bit on the last section because I'm almost entirely out of argon now, and I don't think I'm going to be able to get any more for some amount of time. Yeah, so that's kind of changed things a little. I'm going to have to either MIG some things, or stuff that I can't is just going to have to wait. But this is getting really exciting now. Anyway, I'm going to go and be pleased with myself. I'm so desperate to get this edited and uploaded now. But yes, it's great. Yes, thanks Bertie. I did exactly as I was told with the 3-inch downpipe, so I hope you're pleased with that. Ross for the encouragement along the way, and actually, in fairness, Justin and everyone else who's been encouraging me as I go. Yeah, really making progress. So I'm going to be doing some editing and stuff. I might even be back out here later today, getting on with the next bit. I've got a bit of 3D printing to do, so but not until I've done some editing and possibly a mood for a bike ride. Anyway, on to the next one. Hope it's as successful as this, and yeah, I'll catch you next time. Cheers for watching.